Hey, Poppulse Secrets Fam, welcome back to another episode that is going to shake you to your core. Today's story is about Sarah, a girl with empty pockets but a heart of gold, and Brad, a man with a full wallet but an empty soul. And a mysterious homeless man who is about to teach them both a lesson they will never forget. Grab your tissues, because this one is a roller coaster. Let's jump in and tell us, what city are you watching from? Sarah Jenkins stared at the pile of change on the table. $12.50. That was it. That was everything she had to her name. She looked up at the calendar on the wall. The date 15th was circled in red ink with the word eviction written next to it. Today was the 15th. Sarah? A weak voice called from the bedroom. Sarah wiped the stress from her face, forced a bright smile, and walked into the bedroom. Her younger brother, Leo, 10, was lying in bed, wrapped in 3 blankets. He looked pale and fragile. "Hey, buddy," Sarah whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed. "How are you feeling?" "My chest hurts," Leo coughed, a dry, rattling sound that made Sarah's heart clench. "Did you get the medicine?" Sarah felt a lump in her throat. The medicine cost $40. She only had 12. "Not yet, Leo. The pharmacy, they were out of stock. But I'm going to get it today. I promise." "Are you going to the big interview?" Leo asked, his eyes wide and hopeful. "Yes," Sarah smoothed his hair back. "Sterling architecture. If I get this job, Leo, everything changes. We move to a place with heating. We get you the best doctors. We'll eat pizza every Friday." Leo smiled weakly. "You're the best architect in the world, Sarah. They'd be stupid not to hire you." "Get some sleep," Sarah kissed his forehead. She walked out of the room and leaned against the door, closing her eyes. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Her parents had died 2 years ago in a car accident, leaving her with a mountain of debt and a sick brother to raise. She had dropped out of her master's program, worked 3 waitressing jobs, and studied at night just to build her portfolio. This interview was her last shot. She put on her only formal outfit, a black skirt suit she had bought from a thrift store. It was slightly faded, and the shoes were scuffed, but she had polished them until they shined as best they could. She grabbed her portfolio, kissed her parents' photo by the door, and walked out into the freezing Chicago winter. The city was merciless that morning. The wind cut through Sarah's thin coat like a knife. She was hungry. She hadn't eaten since yesterday lunch so that Leo could have dinner, but she ignored the gnawing pain in her stomach. She stopped at a street vendor and bought a black coffee and a plain bagel. It cost her $4. Now she had $8.50 left. As she turned the corner toward the towering glass building of sterling architecture, she saw him. An old man sat huddled against the cold brick wall of an alleyway. He was a heartbreaking sight. His gray hair was matted and dirty, his beard was long and unkempt, and he was wearing a coat that was more holes than fabric. He wasn't begging, he was just shivering, his head bowed low, his hands tucked under his armpits for warmth. Hundreds of people walked past him. Executives in fur coats, bankers in Italian suits. They stepped around him as if he were a pile of trash. One man even accidentally kicked the old man's foot and kept walking without apologizing. Sarah walked past him too. She was late. She couldn't stop. But after 5 steps, she froze. She looked at the steaming bagel in her hand. Then she looked at the old man. She thought of Leo shivering in bed. If that were my father, she thought, I would hope someone would stop. Sarah turned around. She walked back to the old man and knelt down on the wet, snowy pavement. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. The old man flinched, as if expecting to be yelled at. He looked up. His eyes were a piercing steel gray, hidden behind wrinkles and grime. He looked exhausted. I don't have any spare change, miss, he rasped, his voice rough from the cold. Please, I'm just resting. I'm not asking for money, Sarah smiled gently. She held out the coffee and bagel. Here. It's hot. It'll help with the cold. The man looked at the food, then at Sarah's face. He seemed surprised. But, isn't this your breakfast? You look like you're in a rush. I'm fine, Sarah lied, her stomach growling loudly enough to betray her. She blushed. Okay, maybe I am hungry. But you're shaking. Please, take it. The old man reached out with trembling hands and took the cup. The warmth seemed to bring life back into his fingers. Thank you, child. You have a kind spirit. Most people don't even see me. People are just busy, Sarah said kindly, though she knew it wasn't true. She noticed he was still shivering violently. The wind was picking up. Without thinking, she unraveled the red wool scarf from her neck. It was her favorite scarf, a gift from her mother before she died. It was the only thing keeping her warm. Here, Sarah said, wrapping it gently around the old man's neck. It's not much, but it's warm wool. Miss, I can't take this, the man protested, his eyes widening. You'll freeze. That looks like a nice scarf. I have a coat, Sarah stood up, shivering immediately as the cold air hit her neck. You need it more. My name is Sarah. What's yours? The man stared at her for a long moment, studying her face as if memorizing it. I'm Art. Just call me Art. Nice to meet you, Art. I have to go, I have a big interview. Wish me luck. Good luck, Sarah, Art whispered, clutching the red scarf. Luck favors the bold, and the kind. Sarah smiled and turned to run toward the building. She didn't notice that Art wasn't eating the bagel. He was watching her, a strange, calculating look in his eyes. Sarah was just feet away from the entrance when a silver Porsche screeched to the curb, tires spinning in the slush. Dirty brown water splashed up, covering Sarah's polished shoes and the hem of her skirt. Oh no! Sarah gasped, looking down. The driver's door opened, and out stepped Brad Wellington. Brad was everything Sarah was not. Rich, privileged, and cruel. They had attended the same university, where Brad had mocked Sarah for working in the cafeteria to pay her tuition. Brad stepped out in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than Sarah's entire apartment. He saw Sarah wiping her shoes with a tissue and smirked. Well, look what the cat dragged in, Brad laughed, checking his reflection in the car window. Sarah Jenkins. Still shopping at the dumpster, I see? Hello, Brad, Sarah said through gritted teeth, standing up straight. Nice parking job. You got mud all over me. Consider it an improvement to that outfit, Brad sneered. He looked over Sarah's shoulder and saw Art, the homeless man, sitting nearby wrapped in the red scarf. Brad's face twisted in disgust. Ugh. And you're hanging out with your friends, I see? Hey! You! Hobo! Brad walked over to Art. Sarah rushed to intercept him, but Brad was faster. Get lost, old man! Brad shouted, kicking the cardboard box Art was sitting on. The coffee cup Sarah had given him spilled onto the snow. This is a corporate building, not a garbage dump. Move! Stop it, Brad! Sarah screamed, pushing Brad away. She knelt down to help Art, who looked shaken. Are you crazy? He's an old man. He's a parasite. Brad dusted off his jacket as if touching Sarah had contaminated him. And you're pathetic, Sarah. Giving your scarf to a bum? You're going to walk into the biggest interview of the year shivering and smelling like street trash? I'd rather smell like the street than have a rotten soul like yours, Sarah shot back, her eyes blazing. Brad laughed, a cold, barking sound. Soul doesn't pay the bills, sweetheart. Ambition does. My father had dinner with the vice president last night. This job is already mine. I'm just here to sign the paperwork. You're just here to embarrass yourself. He leaned in close, whispering in her ear. Go home, Sarah. Take care of that dying brother of yours. You don't belong in the big leagues. Sarah froze. How did he know about Leo? The cruelty of his words pierced her heart. Brad straightened his tie, gave Art one last look of disgust, and marched into the building's revolving doors. Sarah's hands were shaking. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She turned to Art. I am so sorry, Art. Are you okay? Art looked at the spilled coffee, then up at Brad's retreating figure. His expression was unreadable. It wasn't fear. It was something else. Something darker. I'm fine, Sarah, Art said, his voice surprisingly steady. Don't let him get to you. Men like him, they build their castles on sand. The tide always comes eventually. I have to go, Sarah said, her voice trembling. He's right about one thing. I'm late. Go, Art nodded. And remember, head high. Sarah entered the building and felt the immediate weight of intimidation. The lobby was warm, smelling of expensive perfume and fresh lilies. Everyone looked flawless. She walked to the reception desk. The receptionist, a woman with sharp glasses, looked Sarah up and down, her eyes lingering on the mud stains on Sarah's shoes. Name, she asked, bored. Sarah Jenkins. I have an interview for the senior architect position at 9 a.m. You're 3 minutes late, the receptionist said, tapping her watch. Have a seat. You're lucky they are running behind schedule. Sarah sat in the waiting area. There were 5 other candidates. All men. All wearing expensive watches. All looking at portfolios on iPads. Sarah clutched her battered leather folder, her father's old portfolio case, tighter. Across the room, Brad was holding court. He was laughing loudly with another candidate. So I told my dad, if I don't get the corner office, I'm firing the hiring manager. Brad joked. The other man laughed nervously. Brad saw Sarah sitting alone in the corner. He walked over, casting a shadow over her. You're actually going to go through with this? Brad whispered. Look at you! Your shoes are muddy. You're shivering. You look desperate. They can smell desperation, Sarah. It smells cheap. I'm here because I'm talented, Brad, Sarah said, trying to stop her voice from shaking. I graduated top of our class. You graduated because your dad donated a library. Brad's smile vanished. His eyes turned cold. Talent? Let me tell you how the real world works. Sterling architecture designs for billionaires. We build penthouses, casinos, private islands. Do you? Think a girl who counts coupons knows what a billionaire wants. You design affordable housing, Sarah. You build boxes for poor people. You're small time. Mr. Miller? Miss Jenkins? An assistant called out. The board is ready for you. It will be a group interview session. Sarah's heart stopped. A group interview? She had to present alongside Brad? Ladies first, Brad smirked, gesturing to the heavy double doors. To the slaughter. The boardroom was terrifying. The view from the 50th floor showed the entire city covered in snow. 3 executives sat like judges. Mr. Henderson, VP of Operations, Ms. Lawson, Head of Design, and Mr. Black, Finance Director. "Welcome," Mr. Henderson said, not smiling. "Mr. Sterling, our CEO, is running late. He has unconventional habits in the morning. We will proceed without him." Brad took the seat confidently. Sarah sat next to him, trying to hide her scuffed shoes under the table. "We have reviewed your portfolios," Ms. Lawson said. "We are looking for a visionary. Someone who understands the future of sterling architecture. Brad, let's start with you." Brad stood up. He didn't just present, he performed. He pulled out sleek, glossy renderings of a massive glass skyscraper. "Gentlemen, Ms. Lawson," Brad began smoothly. "My vision is the Sterling Spire. A 100-story residential tower for the elite. Private elevators for cars. Gold-plated lobbies. It screams power. It screams exclusivity. We don't just build buildings, we build status. My design ensures that the residents never have to interact with the lower class of the city." Mr. Black nodded, impressed. "Very profitable. Maximum price per square foot." "Exactly," Brad grinned. "We keep the riffraff out. We build a sanctuary for wealth." "Sarah?" Mr. Henderson turned to her. "Your turn." Sarah stood up. Her hands were shaking as she opened her worn portfolio. Her sketches weren't 3D computer renderings. They were hand-drawn, detailed, and artistic. "My vision is..." "The community hub," Sarah began, her voice wavering at first. Brad snorted. "Community hub? Sounds like a YMCA." Sarah ignored him. She thought of Leo. She thought of art shivering in the snow. Passion took over her fear. "Architecture isn't just about height or gold plating," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. "It's about humanity. My design integrates green spaces, affordable living units mixed with luxury apartments, and public libraries. It creates a space where the CEO and the teacher can share a coffee. It solves the isolation problem in our city." She looked directly at the executives. "A building that only serves the rich is just a golden cage. A building that serves the community is a legacy. That is what sterling architecture should be." Silence filled the room. Ms. Lawson looked intrigued. But Mr. Black looked annoyed. "Miss Jenkins," Mr. Black said coldly. "This is a business. Not a charity. Your design loses us 40% in potential revenue. It gains you 80% in public goodwill and sustainability," Sarah argued. "It's naive," Brad interrupted. "It's a project for a student, not a serious firm. Look at her shoes, for God's sake. She walked in here with mud on them. She doesn't understand our clientele because she isn't one of them." Sarah felt the tears stinging her eyes. She gripped the edge of the table. "My shoes are muddy because I walked here. Because I stopped to help a man who was freezing on your doorstep. Maybe if you stepped out of your cars once in a while, you'd see the city you're trying to build for." "Excuses," Brad scoffed. "You stopped to talk to a hobo? That proves my point. Bad judgment." Mr. Henderson sighed. "Thank you both. I think we have seen enough. Brad, your proposal aligns with our financial goals. Sarah, your heart is in the right place, but we need sharks, not saints." It was over. Sarah closed her portfolio. Her dream was dead. Leo's medicine, the apartment, the future, gone. "Sharks." A gravelly, loud voice boomed from the doorway. "Is that what we need?" Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was Art. He was still wearing the dirty, torn coat. He still had the fake matted beard on, though it was slightly askew. And around his neck was Sarah's bright red wool scarf. Brad jumped up, furious. "Are you kidding me? Security! How did this beggar get up here?" Brad rushed toward Art. "You! I told you to get lost. You followed us up here? You're going to jail, old man." Brad reached out to grab Art's collar. "Don't touch him!" Sarah screamed. She didn't care about the job anymore. She didn't care about the executives. She ran across the room and shoved Brad hard, putting herself between Brad and the homeless man. "Get away from him, Brad!" Sarah yelled, panting. "He's confused. He's probably just looking for warmth. You don't have to hurt him." She turned to Art, her eyes full of concern. "Art, you have to go. Please. They'll call the police. I'll walk you out. Come with me." Art looked down at Sarah. He saw the desperation in her eyes, not for herself, but for him. He saw a girl who had just lost her dream job, yet her only concern was protecting an old man from a bully. A slow, terrifyingly calm smile spread across Art's face. He gently placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, moving her aside. "It's okay, Sarah," Art said. His voice was no longer raspy. It was deep, commanding, and smooth. "I don't think they'll call the police." Art stepped forward. He looked at the three executives who were sitting at the table, frozen in shock. "Well," Art barked at them, "are you going to sit there and let this boy assault me in my own boardroom?" The three executives scrambled out of their chairs as if they were on fire. They buttoned their jackets and bowed their heads low. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," they shouted in unison. Time seemed to stop. Brad froze mid-step, his hands still raised. Mr. Sterling?" Brad whispered, his voice squeaking. Art reached up and pulled off the dirty wig. He peeled off the matted beard. Underneath was a sharp, clean-shaven jawline and silver hair styled perfectly. He shrugged off the dirty trench coat, letting it fall to the floor. Underneath, he was wearing a tuxedo that was sharper and more expensive than anything Brad had ever seen. He wasn't Art the beggar. He was Arthur Sterling, the billionaire founder of the company. The legend. The only thing he kept on was the red wool scarf. Arthur walked past a paralyzed Brad and sat at the head of the table, the empty chair. "Sit down," Arthur commanded. Brad collapsed into his chair, shaking violently. Sarah stood by the door, her hands over her mouth. "Come, Sarah. Sit," Arthur gestured to the seat next to him. Sarah walked over on trembling legs and sat down. "Every year," Arthur began, his eyes scanning the room, "on the anniversary of the day I started this company, I dress up as a homeless man. I sit outside my own building for 2 hours." He paused, looking at his executives. "Do you know why?" Silence. "Because I was homeless," Arthur revealed. 40 years ago, I slept in that exact alleyway. I ate from garbage cans. No one looked at me. No one helped me. Until one day, a woman gave me a sketchbook and told me I had talent. That kindness saved my life." He turned his steel gaze to Brad. "I do this test to see who my employees really are. Character isn't what you do when you're in a boardroom, Brad. Character is how you treat people who can do nothing for you." "Sir, I had no idea it was you," Brad stammered, sweating. "I was just stressed. I was trying to protect the firm's image." "That makes it worse," Arthur roared, slamming his hand on the table. "You treated me like trash because you thought I was weak. You kicked my seat. You mocked this young woman for helping me. You called my building a sanctuary for wealth. Arthur stood up. Sterling architecture builds for people, not just for egos. You are a talented architect, Brad. But you are a small, cruel man. And I don't hire cruel men. Arthur pointed to the door. Get out of my building. And don't bother applying to any other firm in Chicago. I'll make sure they know exactly who you are. Brad grabbed his briefcase, his face red with humiliation. He looked at Sarah one last time, not with arrogance, but with fear, and ran out of the room. Arthur turned to Sarah. The intimidating billionaire mask fell away, and he looked like the kind old man from the street again. Sarah, he said softly. Mr. Sterling. I. Sarah couldn't speak. You gave me your breakfast when you were hungry, Arthur said, touching the red scarf. You gave me your warmth when you were freezing. And you defended me against a man twice your size, even though you thought it would cost you your job. He opened Sarah's battered portfolio. He looked at her drawings of the community hub. Your designs are rough, Arthur admitted. They lack polish. But they have soul. You understand what architecture is really about. It's about shelter, safety, dignity. He closed the folder. The senior architect position is yours, Sarah. Sarah's jaw dropped. But, sir, I'm not qualified. I'm just a junior. Qualified? Arthur laughed. You're the only person in this entire city qualified to carry my legacy. You have a heart, Sarah. I can teach you how to draw straight lines. I can't teach you how to care. He pulled a checkbook from his tuxedo pocket. He wrote something and slid it across the table. Sarah looked at it. It was a check for $50,000. An advance on your salary, Arthur said with a wink. For Leo. Get him the best doctors. And get yourself a warm meal. Sarah burst into tears. All the stress, the fear, the hunger, it all released at once. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sarah didn't just take the job, she transformed the company. With Arthur as her mentor, she built the Community Hub, a building that won the Global Architecture Award for its mix of luxury and charity. Leo got his surgery and made a full recovery. He's now the captain of his soccer team. As for Arthur, he retired a year later, leaving the company in Sarah's hands. But every winter, on the anniversary of the company, you can still find him sitting on a park bench, feeding the birds. And if you look closely, he's always wearing a bright red wool scarf. And Brad? Well, the last time anyone saw him, he was working at a car rental desk at the airport. Ironically, he spends his days washing mud off tires. What a journey, fam. From the freezing streets to the top of the world. This story teaches us a lesson we should never forget: karma has no deadline. Brad thought he was kicking a beggar, but he was kicking his own future. Sarah thought she was losing a meal, but she was feeding her destiny. So the next time you see someone struggling, don't look away. You never know who they might be or who you might become if you help them. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. It helps us spread more kindness. Comment below, kindness always wins if you made it to the end. And tell us, should we do a story about a secret prince next? Or maybe the evil stepmother? Vote in the comments. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and keep spreading the love. Poppulse Secrets Fam, we out. Peace.